This episode sponsored by Lake Monster Details, producing the Don's Light and Magic Legacy line of parts, offering upgrade parts and decals for accuracy, special effects, and lighting. Visit www.lakemonsterdetails.com and make it glow. Also sponsored by GCals, producing aftermarket replacement decals and custom quality graphics for your favorite spaceships. Visit www.gcals.company.site and add some personalization to your sci-fi models today. Hey, what's up guys? Will here. Welcome back to Modeling from the Engine's Chair, or if this is your first time joining me, welcome to Modeling from the Engine's Chair. But this is episode 4 of the Aoshima Airwolf 148 scale build that I'm working on. And when I left off last time, we left off at step 9, which was finishing up the cockpit area. And what I was waiting on was for my SMDs to come in, which they did come in. And they're all here. I'll put the order information down in the notes below if anybody's interested in getting these. But anyway, I did a couple different colors because I'm going to be using these also for my NX01 build that I'm working on. But I got white, I've got warm white, red, green, and blue. So I've got all those. I really like using SMDs in some of these smaller areas because it's a little easier to fit those into tight spots than a 3mm, or I've even got some 1.5mm LEDs I could have used, but I like using the SMDs. They're compact and they can put out a decent amount of light for the size. So anyway, I got those in, and I think last episode I hadn't put the top on yet. I was still waiting to get the SMDs in and see how I want to do that. So I've got the top on now on the cockpit here, the back half where Dominic sits, and I've got four SMDs that I've run. The first one I ran, make sure I get that, move this light over to where I can show you. I put up that bottom area there where I had made the screen transparent so it would show a blue light on Dominic's face, or on this, well, on this helmet anyway. But so I got that set up. I put an SMD on each side to light up those control panels, and then I put one more SMD on top, and these three are white SMDs. And so I put those in place. I put one more on top here where I drilled those holes for those lights I wanted to come down to show light behind where Dominic sits, hopefully light it up a little more. And what I did was to put these in place, I learned a little trick from Boyd over at TrekWorks. But basically once I got the SMD where I wanted it, I took a little drop of my CA glue, which is this extreme power. I think you can get it at Hobby Lobby. But I just put a drop of that on the cable itself, on the wires, once I've got this in place, and then I hit it with a little bit of this Instaset, which is a CA glue accelerator, which basically makes the CA glue harden up quicker than it would if you just let it sit there. So that way I don't have to sit there and hold these wires for a long period of time. I just get the SMD in place where I want it, pull a little drop of CA glue, hit it with that, and in a couple seconds it's good to go. So that's what I did to get all these wires kind of held in place or tacked down. And once I did that for this top one, I took a little more UV resin and put a big old drop on there, if you can see that right there. But put a big drop on there because that'll help carry the light over to those two ports, those two light holes I drilled. And also to help with the lighting on the inside there, I painted the interior white. So and I use a gloss white, because the gloss white will help that light kind of even out and bounce around. It'll reflect more, and it gives a little more even lighting to the control panels. Now, it's hard to get a picture of this pack. You're really not going to see all this work I'm putting into it. You're really not going to see much of it. I did post some pictures on my Facebook page, at Engine's Chair. If you want to see those, just do a search for at Engine's Chair. It should come up. But and also it's posted in the links down the bottom here. So take a look at that if you want to. I did get some pictures. The pictures come out bluer than what it looks like in person. I don't know, the camera for some reason is picking up the blue light a lot more than the white light. So, but it definitely, the lighting balance, I like it. I think it looks really good when it's lit up. It does get a nice reflection off of the visor on Dominic's helmet. because I did use a gloss black for the visor, so it gives a good reflection off of it. And I'm really happy with the way it turned out. I think it looks really good. It's just too bad I'm not going to get to see much of it. But at any rate, so step 9 is done. This is all put together. I've got all the lights wired up and basically soldered everything together. When I get the camera turned around here, because I've got a new camera set up. I did have a new camera as well. But like I said on my NX01 build, that didn't turn out to, that camera was just a piece of junk. So I sent it back. But I did keep the tripod, which lets me do an overhead view, so hopefully you can get a better view of what I'm working on when I'm doing this. So at any rate, that's done, so step 9 is complete. But when I get the camera turned around overhead, I'll plug in a battery to this, and we'll see if I can get you a decent view of that back or not. I don't know, we'll see. We'll try it out though. But at any rate, so that's where we're at. That's done. The next step is what we're going to be working on this episode is the landing gear. We've got the guns to work on, the machine guns there to work on the sides, and I've got those pretty much detailed up, and I'll go over how I detailed these, give you some ideas. But now the ADF pod I'm not going to work on right now. That's step 12, but we don't attach it till like the very last step is to attach. So I'm not going to do that right now because I'm still working out how I want to paint this and how I want to detail it, along with the exhaust for the top there. I've got some, I know how I want to do that, I just haven't done it yet. But the ADF pod, I haven't really decided how I want to go about painting that yet and detailing it. So I'm going to hold off on that right now. So right now we're going to work on his landing gear. We'll work on the machine guns here, I'll go over that, and also go over installing that very small flap for the chaff, I don't know how you pronounce it, but the stuff that comes out and glows hot and bright so that heat-seeking missiles get deterred. But at any rate, so I'm going to show you what I did for that, getting that installed, and when we get done with that, if we have time, I'm going to jump around a little bit, and I'll tell you why when we get to that point. But I'm going to jump around a little bit, hopefully not confuse you too much. So at any rate, give me a minute, I'll put you on the bench, we'll get to work. Alright guys, so here we are. I said I was going to hold off on this, so I'm going to set this to the side, put this back in the box so don't lose any parts. And what we've got is 9 and 10. Let's see, step 10 is putting together the landing gear, which you'll see I've already painted up here. I've got the wheels painted, and basically I used the insignia white for the rims, and I used flat black for the tires. They do make a paint called rubber. I don't know if it actually looks like rubber, but they make a paint called rubber, but for the most part I'm just going to use flat black. So I've got that painted up, and basically the way I do these wheels is the first thing I did was I painted them with the insignia white, and then I came back with one of my fine paint brushes and painted the black very carefully around it. And then any mistakes I made, for example, the bristles might have touched one of these, what's supposed to be, I guess, lug nuts or something. If it touched that, what I did was I decanted some insignia white out, which is basically decanting is taking a spray can and spraying it into a cup or something. So I sprayed some of that insignia white in here so I could come in with my pointer here, and I like using this pointer because it'll only pick up a very small amount of paint. Got a little glue on the end here. It'll only pick up a very small amount of paint, so I can dip it in there and it'll only have a very small amount of paint because it won't retain paint like a paintbrush will. And I can come in and just kind of dab that insignia white around to kind of patch up or blend in, you know, cover up where I got a little bit of black speck at. So that's how I painted these. I went back and touched that up, and then if I accidentally touched somewhere with the white, I just did the same thing with the flat black. Just came with the flat black and touched it with the tip of this and touched it where I needed to touch it up at, and that's how I touched it up. So it worked out pretty well. When I detach these, of course, I'm going to have to paint a little more black on here, but I'm going to have to possibly do a little sanding around the outside. I'm not too worried about the outside. I do need to do a little more touch up right here with the insignia white. I see a little bit of a spot here where it's kind of uneven, an uneven circle. Can't have any uneven circles on donuts. So I'm going to have to take a look at that, but I'm not too worried about it right now. I'll come back to it and fix that. But at any rate, so we've got those painted up. So what I'm going to do now is, the first thing we're going to work on is, looks like the front landing gear. And that requires parts 78 and 79, which you got the sprue with your wheels on it. That's these two pieces up here, next to your intakes. So again, I'm going to come back with my scissors and just snip those off. Remember, don't want to twist these because you could end up taking out a bigger chunk than what you want. So cut these out. And then for the landing gear in the front, we take the small tire, or the smallest tire on there, which is part 84, I believe. Yeah, part 84. Cut that off. Now again, I do have to do a little more black paint on this at some point, but because I can access this wheel, the very bottom of this wheel is the only spot that really needs additional black paint. I can put this together and then kind of come back to it in a little bit and off camera take care of it. I don't need to worry about it right this second. So those are our two parts for that. So all we need now is a little bit of glue. Now remember, I've already painted these the color they need to be, but chances are I'll have to see how they look when I get it together. Probably going to have to, now I didn't paint the underside of this, so I don't need to scrape any paint off. Probably going to have to do a little bit of sanding and then come back in with some paint and touch it back up. But the only thing we need glue on is this top part here. Make sure we get it on. I don't want to put too much on there because we don't want to yeah, I've got to come back and trim a little bit right here with the sprue, but I'm worried about if I do it right now breaking this piece. So I want to put it together first to make it a little sturdier, and then I'll come back and do some touch up on that. Put our wheel in place. Might need just a little bit of glue on that center part, because it doesn't look like there's really anything holding that together on the wheel itself. So I'll lay that there, put the wheel in, and I'm just going to put just a little bit of glue on this right here. So when I put that in there, that'll hold that together. Alright, so we've got that together. The wheel spins freely. That's always a good sign. I've got a little bit, like I was talking about, this little bit of a little bit of sprue that's still right here. I got to get off here. But I didn't want to do it until I put this together, because now it's a little sturdier. I don't have to worry about breaking it. So I got that, and then there's a little bit right here on the back. Okay. Alright, not too bad. Alright, so that's all together, and our wheel spins freely, which is good. Although, you can do this with the landing gear out or without the landing gear. That's why it has those little rubber pieces that I showed last episode, I believe, where this is just going to kind of, matter of fact, it's on this part here. This part is just going to kind of stick up in here, and that little rubber piece is just there to allow you to stick the landing gear in there like that, or you can take it back out and display it without the landing gear down. So that's what that piece is there for. But I don't know, I haven't decided yet how I'm going to display this, and it looks like I am going to need to do a little bit of sanding here, and that's fine. I'll do a little bit of sanding. I'll come back, I'll decant some more of this insignia white in here, and then I'll just come back and touch this up with a paintbrush. Maybe put a little bit of thinner in it. You don't really need to, but I just want to make sure that I don't get any gobs showing on here. Now that I've airbrushed or spray painted this, and now I'm going to come back with a brush. I don't want to leave any brush strokes in here. So I got a little bit of black I need to touch up here. I accidentally nicked that with my fingernail just now while I was holding it. So, but I can come back and do that off camera. Don't really need to do that right now. So anyway, that's our front landing gear. It's all together. So we're done with that one. And the next step is our rear landing gear, which we have a pair of. So we're going to need both of these wheels, which is they're both parts 83 it looks like. So I'm just going to cut those off. And then we're whittling down the sprue. We don't have a whole lot left on here. Now we are going to need, let's see, parts 88 and 91. So we're going to need these two little pieces right here. This is one of them. And the other one's on this side. Alright, and that's all we need off that sprue for now. So we'll just kind of set that back in the box over here. And then we need these two pieces here, which are parts 71 and 69 it looks like. Check my instructions, yep. So we're going to need these two pieces here. Ooh. Don't let your parts go flying. I'm going to set these off in pairs. Look at it and make sure, but I don't really think it's going to matter which one is with which, as long as we've got one from the tree we just did and one from this tree paired up together. It should be good. Let's see, we need anything else? Oh, yep, we are going to need something else. We got these shocks here, so we're going to need these parts. That's part 60, like 66 and 65. So we're going to need those. Alright, and that's all we need off that. Now you can see on here I've already painted these parts with the it's going to take a little bit of sand, wet sanding or something. There's a little bit uneven area. This is already painted with the gunmetal, and then like I said, I'm going to come back and dust over this with the anthracite gray that we talked about last episode. I think that's going to give it a nice sheen, because this gunmetal is already a gray, or like a gray silver sheen, but it's got the metallic that I'm looking for. So when I dust over this with the anthracite gray, it'll still be gray. It'll be a little bit darker of a gray, but hopefully we'll still get some of this metallic shining through. So, but anyway, that's all we need for this stage. That's all we need off of this part. So we've got a couple different parts here. Now on the shock here, you've got this one little piece. That is just another piece of spruce, so we can cut that off. That's not part of the actual part itself. It's just extra little part of a sprue there. So we can cut that off of both of these. And then I'm going to come back and just clean these up a little bit. You've got to be careful with these though, because they are very small parts. And I don't want to break it while I'm trying to trim this down a bit, or trying to trim this leftover little piece of a sprue off of here. And like I said, I can come back later and if I need to and touch this up. It's actually trimming this off isn't because the piece itself is white, even though it's a little bit of a lighter shade of white than this insignia white is. It's actually not showing up too bad where I've trimmed those little pieces off. All right, so we got that. Come back and clean up this part here where the sprue was attached. That one there. There. Two more little little pieces here. All right, so now we got those parts all trimmed up and ready to put these together. Just want to look at these and see how these go together. It looks like... Alright guys, I had to fiddle with this a minute and make sure I was right, but the way I was putting it together was correct. It just looked a little different in the instructions here. It looked like the bottom of that shock was supposed to attach somewhere else. And so I got it all figured out. So the easiest thing is going to be to, what we've got is, you've got this, this one little point here, this one little spot here that sticks up. Your shock is going to, has a hole on the side here. And that's going to need to fit into that, and then the bottom of our shock is going to fit. You've got a little hole right here, so our shock's going to fit on here, if I can get the holes lined up. There and right there. So that's how our shock needs to, that's how our shock needs to be sitting on that landing gear. So I think the easiest thing to do is going to be to put a little glue on here and glue one half of the shock, so that way we don't have to try to hold it. Just a little drop of glue right there and a little drop of glue right there. That way we don't have to try to hold it like I was doing while we're putting the whole thing together. If we get this glued on here and in place, and then it'll stay in place while we're trying to glue the other half on here. So what we need now is too much glue. We need a little drop of glue here, there, one on that side. And then what I'll do is put a drop of glue where the wheel is going to go. Just a little dab on there so it doesn't cause our wheel to not spin anymore. Alright, put the wheel on there. So we got it just like that. Oh, I do need the correct piece here. So we got that in there. And what we can do is just drop this part into place. Spin this wheel so the wheel doesn't get glued up. Although it doesn't really matter if the wheel spins or not, unless you're planning on rolling your Airwolf around a lot. So, but just for the sake of having that wheel free to spin if it wants to. Alright. So that's what our setup looks like. You can see the shock going through there. But so that one's all glued together. I'll do this one up too, real quick. So first thing we'll do is glue this shock on here. Or maybe it's a strut. No, it's not a strut because there's no spring on it. It's just a shock. Hold that in place a second. I'll take some glue, hit these points on here. Oops. Set my wheel on here. And this one's going to get one little spot of glue where the wheel goes. Make sure our wheel's going to spin there. Alright, so we got that all glued together. Wheel spins. Make sure my wheel's still good on this one. Ew, I didn't put enough glue in there. Actually, what happened was when I put this together, I didn't hold this bottom part together where the wheel is, so that that could glue together. All right, there we go. Just gotta make sure that wheel still spins. Although, like I said, it's not really a big deal if you glue it and the wheel doesn't spin anymore. Like I said, unless you're planning on rolling your Airwolf around like a Matchbox car, it's not that big of a deal. So anyway, so that's step 10. We've got our landing gear done, and those are all ready to go on when it calls for it. But that's not going to be till a while later, so we're just going to set these out the way for now. I'll come back later and do a little touch up on it. And so the next step is step 11, which is our firearms here. Wipe that super glue off. So basically what I did with this was I sprayed these with the gunmetal, which is almost black color, and then I came back over and I dry brushed silver over it. And dry brushing, if you don't know what dry brushing is, basically you take a wider brush. You want a wider brush, not quite this wide, but if you use a narrow brush, it's going to fit into places where you don't want to, which defeats the purpose. So you take a wide brush, like I said, not quite as wide as this one, but this is the only one I've got sitting here right now. But you put a little paint on it, and then you get you either a towel you can toss, or you get you some paper towels or that, and you just basically brush it until there's barely any paint coming off it. And then you come back and just brush whatever color you've got on there. So in this case I use silver and brush back over it. And just puts a small amount of paint on there. If there's any high areas, it'll catch more paint on that than other areas. But so I did that with the silver. And this is the color I've got, which is showing up a little bit darker on camera than what it is in person. But at any rate, that's how I did that. And then to get these little exhaust ports, I guess you call them, on here to paint those. Basically what I did was I took my pointer and just dipped it, got just a little bit of paint on it, and came in, put the paint in there, and then just came by with my finger and wiped it. Just gently wipe it, and it'll leave that black in the recessed area. Don't be afraid to get a little dirty. Come back and wipe it, and it'll leave just black just in that recessed area. Wipe a little too hard, come back and put a little more in. And that'll leave the paint just in the recessed area where it needs to be. Just lightly wipe it off with your finger. Don't go touching anything else until you make sure you wipe your handbag. Don't go touching your wife or your girlfriend or your kids and getting paint all over them. So anyway, that's how I did the black on these little exhaust ports. They can be a pain in the butt to do, but it's relatively simple. Put a little black in there and come back and wipe it off with your fingertip. Very gently, because if you do it too hard, you're just going to wipe the paint right out of the hole there. But I already did this side, so those are all done, and those are ready to go together. So basically, it's a pretty simple assembly. We'll need let's see, we'll need part 46, which is this one right here. And again, be very careful with the tips of these, because these are very thin and long and they can break easy. So just trim off that little bit of plastic. And I can come back and touch this little spot up here with some silver if I need to. So we got that one. And then you've got, they number these all different. I don't think there's much of a difference in them, but we'll go with the numbers. So that was 46, and this calls for 42 and 44 to go together. So this one here, is 42, and then there's 44. And this one little part in between here is just another piece of sprue, so we'll be cutting that off when we do the other side. But we got that. I'm just going to trim this little bit of sprue off here. Being careful not to cut any fingers off. Get that trimmed. This one's actually pretty good already. So there's a little part under here. There we go. All right. That one. And this one here. All right. So we got those all cleaned up. And basically, this top part here, these two guns here, are just going to glue together. There's just some little pegs there that go together, and let's see, which side is it? You want this part out, so this part here should glue in. But the funny thing is, the peg holes don't match up, because you'll see the holes are offset. The holes are offset on this piece, but the pegs are straight across from each other on this piece. So that's not going to line up right. Easy enough fix though. What we'll do is we'll cut the peg off the front. Being careful not to break that barrel off. Alright. It's kind of strange. I don't know why they did that. But those pegs are not lining up on this side. Oh wait. Maybe because it needs to go on the other side. Alright. So, first mistake on my part. That peg is actually, I had to turn the guns around. They were facing the opposite direction. But ain't a biggie. I don't think I'm going to miss that peg later. Let's hope not. So don't cut the peg off. Just make sure you got the right side of this facing. So, we'll glue those on. Hold that for a minute. Let that sit. So, first mistake I've made on this that I can think of off the top of my head. I didn't try to turn the piece around to see if it would fit the other way. But it's okay. I just cut one little peg off. It ain't gonna hurt anything. Just know that when you're following my directions here, to heed my warning and don't cut the peg off. Just flip the piece around and see if it'll fit that way. But that's why I make these mistakes on camera, so you don't have to make the same mistake that I made. But again, no biggie. So put some glue on here. This one you can't go wrong really. There's a slot on this one that glues down on there, so you know which side glues to these. But basically that slot, you see that? See that slot on there, right here. And it's just going to glue down into this slot and line everything up. So that's what we're looking like right now. And we can bend these a little bit if we need to get them in place. But anyway, so that's one side, and then I'll do the other side. And instead of y'all sitting here watching me being bored to death on camera, I'll do that side and we'll come back. So give me a minute. Alright guys, so our guns are all done. They're going to sit over here and finish drying. But once you cut those off that sprue's done. So we can get rid of that. But alright, so next thing we got to do is we got to do our little chaff door on the side here. And I've already done this side. And right now this is just primered black. That's all I've done with it. But you can see our little chaff door here that opens up. It's kind of a cool little feature they included on this model. And I don't know if you can make it out, but they want you to paint that one part there clear yellow, kind of orangish on the silver there. But anyway, that's painted in place. And so I'm going to show you what I did with that. You can see it there. Chaff door just closes up. And it's primered right now. But you can see on the inside here, we've got that part in here. And the black you see around this is tulip, which I think I already talked about, which I'll talk about more here in a minute when we do this part. So anyway, let me show you how I did this here. And I'm going to put that silver part up, and I need that. I'm going to need that. Door here. So the parts we're going to need for this, to do this, we've got this part here, which I've already used part 57, so this is 56, and you can see I've already painted this with my transparent, Tamiya transparent. That's all we need off this spruce, so we can put that back in the box. But you can see I've already painted that little spot there with the Tamiya transparent yellow. And these are interchangeable parts. You can actually use either one for either side, but the parts you want to use is the part that's going to have it. So you can do both of these on both sides, and you can use either one. So those parts are interchangeable, at least they appear to be. But we do that. We need that piece. And we need this piece here, which I've used 75, so we're going to need 74. And I'll cut this off down here to sprue. Just make sure you don't cut the little arm off that we're going to need for this piece here. We are going to need this little arm here, so don't cut that off. Make sure you cut the sprue off down the end here. Not get this in camera where you can see it. Don't cut off that little arm. We're going to need that. So. But at any rate, I've got this, and I'm just going to trim this piece with the scissors because it's too small for me to do with the knife. And we can trim this part here a little bit too, but you're not going to see it. It's going to be inside, so wouldn't worry about it too much. Ow! Ooh. Sharp knife. So, at any rate, that's trimmed up, ready to go. And basically, how we put this together, and it's really helpful to have a pair of tweezers to do this with. So, and I've still got a little bit of sprue on the door part here. Get that off. Take just a little bit of sandpaper. it's smooth off of there. Alright, so we're good there. So easiest thing to do is just take a good pair of tweezers, and what we're going to have to do is take this door and slide it into this. There's a notch. You see this notch here. See that notch right there where this needs to go? So what we're going to do is take this and slide that piece into that notch, just like that. That's how she goes in there. Alright. Then what we've got to do is close this door over. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our piece here and make sure that the angle of this little piece right here determines how this is going to fit in here. So it won't fit that way. We'll flip it over, and that's the way it'll go in. So get some glue on here. Now I recommend you only glue the part where that this part back here. Don't glue it in the front, because that's where you need to be able for that to be able to move to open. So whatever part, glue it towards the back end. Don't glue it up front on this part here, because then your door won't open and close. So we've got that, and then we'll just take this part, and it just presses into place there where you had the glue at. Now the other thing I did here to make sure this stayed in place was I took some super glue and just dropped some on there, just like that. And then I'll take my accelerator here and just spray a little bit. You don't need a lot on it, and that'll harden up that CA glue real quick. So, but that's what it should look like on the inside there. All right, and we've got our door up here, which, let's check it. Yep, door still opens, and you can see that little bit of yellow there. It'll stand out more once the door's painted black as well. But what I had to do, I was showing you the get this accelerator to dry. What I was showing you with the tulip, because I'm going to have lights on the inside of this, basically, get that box out the way, basically this is going to sit on the inside, and that SMD is going to be just about where that door is. So what I need to do is to light block that. I'm just taking some of this matte tulip, and I'm not squeezing it or pushing it into the part itself, because I don't want it to block that view from when the door is open. What I'm going to do is basically take this and just fill around that opening, so this will light block. And this stuff is basically, it's 3D, kind of a 3D paint, I guess you could say. But I'll just fill that in like that, and that way when I open that door and I've got my lights on in the inside, it's not going to shine, not going to get light leaking out from the chaff opening here, the chaff, I don't know. Chafing is what your underdrawers do to you, I guess. But anyway, you're not going to get light leaking out through there now. So that's all sealed up. I'm going to let that dry now, and what I'll do is I'll go back out to the garage here, and I'll hit this with a little more primer to get that piece here primed now. And once I've got that primered, I'll be pretty much ready to put on the, I'll hit this with the gunmetal, and then I'll come back and lightly dust over it with the anthracite gray, and that should be our final coating. And then all I'll have to do is, once we put this together, I'll have to do some seam work and tape that off, and basically just have to fix or touch up that little line there where the seam's going to be. So we'll have that all done. But so anyway, that's it for that part. That part's done. And the only other thing I'm going to do, I said I was going to jump around a little bit, because what I want to do is I want this together enough so when I paint it, I want these parts on here that need to be on here so that when I come to paint this, everything's together and I don't have to come back and do everything individually. So we've got a couple parts here that need to be done. The intake needs to be done. I'm not too worried about the windows yet. I don't want to do those yet because I still got to paint this. And I don't want to have to mask off all the windows to paint it. So we need to get that in place. There's our exhaust. Needs to be done at some point, but I'm not too worried about it right now. That won't be done until after we get our paint on this done first. And then when we go to put everything together, we'll put those in, because that exhaust needs to be some paint work done to that I've got to look at yet. But what I do want to get put on here though is I want to get that intake put on. So when I go paint this, it's already on there. And I also want to get this side part put on where our guns are going to attach to. So I'm going to get that painted, or we'll get those put on now. And I think that'll be it for this episode. I'm going to come back and do some touching up on some stuff. So we just need these parts here, which this is part, looks like 89 and part 90. And then we need the intakes, which is part 81 and part 82. And I've already primed these, so these are already primed and ready for paint. Now, the instructions call for these intakes to be a flat black. I do agree these need to be something different from the body color, just because when you see pictures of Airwolf, I think it's got like a screen mesh or something in there, and it's got a different look to it than the body does. So don't need to trim those too much. Trim this part a little bit. There we go. And also, when I go to paint this, I think these, I gotta look and see if there's supposed to be a seam here where this part attaches, or if I need to putty that and sand it and get rid of that seam before I paint this. So basically we're just going to take these parts here and get some of this stuff out the way. So what we need to do though is we need to scrape some of this paint off of here where I primed it. Because remember, we want to make sure that we've got a good contact surface for this. So we've got that scraped off. And this one's going to go on this side here. Let's do a little test fit. Let me make sure there's not something else that needs to go. Ooh. We do have one other piece that needs to go in here though when we do this, and that's this part here. And that's part number 35. I believe it's going to sit in the notch like that. And there's another notch on this side that's going to make contact with it. So that's how that part needs to sit in there. But I need to paint these black, because these are going to show, because these are where the rubber parts are going to go in. And if I don't paint that, you're going to have white showing through there. So let me go paint that, and we'll come back and we'll throw that together, and that should be about it. So give me a minute. Alright guys, it didn't take long. What I realized was I'm going to primer this anyway, so I really don't need to paint that part yet. So I need, where is, that part had actually fallen off the tree earlier. So here's the other one. These were kind of already coming off the tree, so, but basically we just take this part and we'll put some glue on here. It's just going to go in that slot with the opening facing down. And then we're going to take our other outside part here. I don't know if you can hear it, but the kids are outside playing right now. It's a nice day outside, so not my kids, but my kids are all grown up. So, all right, so let me just take this part and stick it on here. We need to make sure that this part is fitting in that slot there. There we go. So this will sit flush. So, all right, so we got that part on both sides. And the only other thing we got left to do is to put these intakes on. And let's see. Oh, and those are going to slide into place pretty nicely. So those will be pretty simple to put in place. You've got a couple of contact points here really that you just need to put glue on. There's one right here. Build up a crud on my needle here. And then you got another one back here. I'm just going to put a little bit around the opening here. But I don't think we really need it because it looks like this part's going to sit in here pretty well just with those contact points. It kind of snaps into place almost. I need a little more glue. Here we go. Alright, so this part just fits into place here. And that's what it's going to look like from the outside. And I'll probably do some light blocking on this piece as well. Because you see there's going to be a little bit, probably can't see it on camera, there's a little bit of a gap around this right in here. So I'll come back with some tool up and just kind of outline around this just to make sure that I'm not having any light leaks there. So we got that one. And now I'm noticing that I didn't scrape the paint off here. I'm not too worried about it because, like I said, this part kind of snaps into place real good without glue. So not too worried about it having any problems out of this. Yep. All right, so that one's in place. Alright, so that's that. So those are the parts that I would suggest putting together before we go to do some painting on this to put that top coat on. And that way we don't have to come back over and repaint again. I can just tape this off and do my white or my grayish bottom here and do that all in one pass instead of having to paint this and then put this part on or paint it separately. Then you have to worry about getting the same line on here. So go ahead and put those parts on, that way we can worry about this part. The intake you don't so much have to worry about, and as a matter of fact, even now that I think about it, I might pop this back out, but it might even be easier to paint this because there's not supposed to be any white paint in here. It might be easier to come back and paint that line and then put this in place. So I'll take a look at that. That's one thing, good thing about only putting the glue on those two parts. I can probably pop that out pretty easy if that's what I decide to do. But at any rate, those are all together. I'm going to do some primer on this now. And when we come back next episode, we should be ready to, let's see what we got here. Got that part's done. We should be about ready to start putting this together to put the cockpit inside and start getting this all together. So At any rate, that's where we're at right now, guys and gals, and everybody else that watches. But at any rate, just want to say, guys, thank you again for watching. I appreciate everybody that's been everybody that's been watching this video, and everybody that's been subscribing. I had a lot of new subscribers, so thank you guys for subscribing and checking out the videos on this. Like I said, this is coming out as a re-release or a reissue in November. So don't go spend your hard-earned bucks on, you know, like I did, $100+ on eBay to get one of these right now. Just wait a little bit and buy one of these. The link is down below, I believe. If it's not, I'll add it there. I know I had it on there before, but I'll re-add it if need be. But the link to pre-order these is on the Hobby Link Japan website. So I think they're pre-ordering these for about 30-35 bucks, somewhere around there. So go ahead and order them off of there, and hopefully you guys will want to do this. These videos help out and make it a little easier for you to put it together. So at any rate, again, thank you guys for watching. Thank you to Gus over at G-Cows for his support, and Cass over at Lake Monster Details for his support as well. And they don't really do anything with these models, or with the Airwolf model in particular, but they have a lot of great stuff. So please, their links are in the notes below. Please check them out, give them some support and some love. And again, thank you guys for watching these videos. I appreciate all the feedback I've been getting on them. And like I said, hopefully these help out if anybody wants to put this together when this re-release happens. So anyway, guys, thanks again. Till next time, keep modeling. Sorry guys, I almost forgot. I did tell you guys I would try to get you a shot of the inside of the cockpit where Dominic sits, and show you how that lighting is working out. But again, it's kind of hard to get this shot, and the top light doesn't really come through as much without the whole thing put together. But if I put the whole thing together, I'm definitely not going to be able to get a shot of it. But you can see the monitors there on the left. They have a little bit of light coming out because I don't have this thing completely sealed up. But you can see how that blue light's reflecting off of Dominic there. It's showing a lot more blue than if I look at this in person. It's not as blue as that. But at any rate, that's kind of what it's looking like back there in the back with good old Dominic. So anyway, just wanted to post that, add this on the end here real quick and let y'all take a look at it. But for those of you, I know there's some of y'all don't do Facebook, so at any rate, I'm going to leave you out with this, guys. I appreciate it again. Till next time, keep modeling.